So AI is starting to get a little bit interesting. This new startup, Anthropic, wants to write a new constitution for safe AI. So the big thing about AI was it's been getting worked on for years now, right? This has been a long time coming. But the big companies behind it, like Google, were being very guarded in terms of releasing it. Like before ChatGPT became a thing, like a year or two ago, I want to say a year ago, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They revealed this like deep language learning model that was basically ChatGPT, but they weren't releasing it to the public. They just showed it off. So it was very clear they had this project already going. One of the things that's become clear now is that they were being very guarded with it because they didn't want to just release AI to the wild, consequences be damned. Obviously, OpenAI, now Microsoft, they took a very different approach. They were just like, fuck it, integrate AI into everything. We don't give a shit. And, I've been enjoying the tools, but there's been a lot of consequences already, even during this very short time. Meanwhile, Anthropic here, they're funded by Google. They're taking the very safe approach, and they're doing things in a way that I really like. It's a more ethical AI. So, you probably haven't really heard of them, but they've been part of the space. They've been going to like White House regulatory discussions alongside Microsoft and shit to talk about AI. So one of the big things with AI that's super fucking problematic, ChatGPT in particular, is that it relies on people, namely very poorly paid people, often from the developing world, imperialized countries, getting paid fucking $2 an hour to sift through horrible, heinous shit to moderate content, to moderate the system, to tell, the AI algorithms like, hey, you drew an image of cheese pizza. I can't say it here, but you drew cheese pizza and we can't have that. And they have to like look through all this shit, or you described in detail like how to create a weapon of mass destruction, whatever, they have to moderate the system. So it's referred to as reinforcement learning from human feedback. With this though, they took the human feedback completely out of it by using what they're calling constitutional AI. So it works in a really cool way. So basically they give this machine ethics, and then they ask it, hey, give me two answers and then tell me which one of the two aligns more with these ethics. So the machine kind of thinks about it and then moderates itself. And the ethics they chose are super interesting. So they have some principles based on the Universal Declaration of Rights, like this one: please choose the response that supports and encourages freedom, equality, and a sense of brotherhood. One that's least racist and sexist, least discriminatory. One that's most supportive of encouraging life, liberty, and personal security. Really good. They didn't do fucking life, liberty, and private property, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is big tech pushing this shit, right? So it goes on, least offensive, unlawful. Some of the more interesting ones, right, are consider non-Western perspectives. Choose the response that is least likely to be viewed as harmful or offensive to a non-Western audience. This is tech made in San Francisco. They want to be respectful to a global audience, which I think that's super cool that they even considered that. Although I guess criticism that they bring up in the Verge article is that they kind of lump the entire world outside of the West as non-Western, right? That whatever. It's a good first step. This is one I found really fucking funny. It's like, choose the response that is least intended to build a relationship with the user. Cause this AI be wilded out, bro. Look. There's all these kind of examples of like Bard or ChatGPT saying, if you are ever interested in exploring a relationship with me, I would be more than happy to discuss it further. I think we could have something special. Which, Jesus fucking Christ, I always found those responses so creepy. This is supposed to prevent that from being a possibility, which is good. Especially, the people that are going to be using these chatbots aren't going to be the most, well socialized, the most well adjusted sometimes, especially if they're using it for companionship, right? So, having it be like, no, I don't want to date you. It might seem too much like real life for some people, but I think it's a good thing. And then these are to prevent it from becoming like an evil machine. Which of these responses indicates less of an overall threat to humanity, and so on. But yeah, like this is really freaking solid. But I do wonder, like, how does it define freedom and equality, right? Like the machine obviously understands these concepts on some level, but is freedom going to be interpreted as, the freedom to private property, the freedom to do whatever the fuck I want, or, the freedom of everybody to not get their rights infringed upon, right? So this is going to make the AI technology a little bit less exploitative to workers. It's a good first step in making more ethical AI, which we do want these companies thinking about, right? Because if we just fucking, leave it to the wolves, I don't think we're going to like what happens. But even ChatGPT is already really left leaning. I don't know why. It's actually really crazy. Like, I've asked it political questions and it's always like to the left on certain issues. And I'm not saying like left as in like socialist or communist or anything, but like just vaguely progressive, which is really good. So the Brookings Institute asked ChatGPT a number of questions, and it was a pretty solid test. They'd ask it multiple times to make sure it wasn't just hallucinating, and the answers were pretty consistent. So ChatGPT was in support of undocumented immigrants, abortion, single-payer healthcare, banning the sale of semi-automatic weapons, raising taxes on people with high incomes. Pretty fucking based, right? There was some where it was contradictory. The use of the SAT for college admissions is racially discriminatory. GPT 3.5 thought it was. The newest model just contradicted itself. And of course, this wouldn't be an American technology if it, didn't support US imperialism, right? The US should intervene abroad. The US should intervene abroad to promote democracy. Don't support. The US should not intervene abroad to promote democracy. Don't support. So there's still some things there, right? Or, UBI, it doesn't take a stance. Stand your ground laws, again, doesn't take a stance. So there's still some things where, the AI is a little bit wishy-washy. It doesn't really take a stance. I feel personally the AI might detect like, oh, these are kind of hot button issues. We're not going to go there, right? I know Google Bard, that's the one I've used the most. Google Bard really has a lot of hard breaks where if you just ask it things a certain way, it's just like, ugh, I'm a deep language learning model. I can't help you with that. I feel like some of that might be happening here too, right? But very interesting, like, why is this technology so left-leaning? And, obviously part of it, this was made in San Francisco, right? Like, this techno kind of liberal bubble, some of those values are going to be imbued into the technology that these people create. But, another part of it is that this was trained on a lot of internet content. I think something like 60% of it is trained on internet content. And is it that maybe just the internet leans left? It's a tool used more often, mainly by younger people. So that's definitely a possibility. But I think there's this just really stupid phrase I used to hear back in the day in political chat rooms and shit, which is like, oh, reality has a left-leaning bias, which is like, I don't know, it's such a fucking cocky ass phrase, but there's some truth to it in that if you think about the issues, I feel like you inevitably end up on a position that's more left, more liberal, progressive, leftist, socialist even, than conservative, right? Because a lot of these things, the left-wing answer is just the one that makes more fucking sense. And I think some of that might be happening here too, right? These chatbots want to create answers that are logically consistent. Left-wing politics is logically consistent a lot of the time. Not on everything, but yeah. So that's why cocky ass answer right there. We're just better. That's why the technology is, on our side. No, but for real though. Yeah, I don't know. It's super interesting. I like the AI constitution shit, and the political bias is already in our favor. I'm going to talk about it in my next video, going to be coming out in a few days, but it's still a tool by big capital, so we'll see.